My name's Hayden Davidson. In this video, we're going to talk about limited company v sole trader. When you're starting out on Amazon, do you need to be a limited company or do you need to start as a sole trader? I'm going to dive into the pros and the cons of a limited company and a sole trader, and then I'm going to do this summary at the end. So make sure you stay tuned for this. I've got my notes right here, so let's dive into it. So let's first do the cons of a sole trader. Okay, now look, make sure you watch this video if you're interested in starting on Amazon. You know, don't get distracted by cat videos or something like that. If you want to start, this is really important, so make sure you watch the whole thing through. So the cons. Now, when I first started out, I started as a limited company personally. And the reason that I started with a limited company was because I heard a horror story. So this is the first con. I heard a horror story, which is rare, by the way. This doesn't happen. I haven't heard of this since. But someone that I know tried to switch from a sole trader to a limited company and they had issues. That Amazon wouldn't let them do it. Therefore, it limited the growth they had in their business. So that's the reason I started a limited company from the start. It was a scarcity move because of that story that I heard. Anyway, I've heard this I think twice now, but it's just something to be aware of. Amazon can be funny when you switch, but it's highly unlikely. Now the next thing is you have unlimited liability. You have unlimited liability if you are a sole trader. That means that if there's issues and you haven't got insurance, for example, if someone does a claim against you, or if there's an issue with a product and you get a claim back from a company, you are going to be liable for that. And then they can start going after your personal possessions. Once again, this is unlikely, but it can happen depending on whoever is running the business. So it's just something you've got to be aware of. The next thing is there is generally more tax to pay on a sole trader via limited company. If you're going to grow it to a big height, it needs to be a limited company anyway. But if you're doing like 85,000 or just below the threshold every single year, generally you're going to pay more tax. Now, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax advisor, but this is just what I know, what I've heard, okay, from the accountants that I've been using. Also, another con is that it's not sellable, okay? It's not a sellable business. It is against the terms of service from Amazon to sell a company that is not limited, okay? To sell a company that's not limited is against T's and C's. Therefore, if you're looking to sell it, you need to switch anyway. Now, let's look at the pros of being a sole trader. Now, some of the pros is an easy setup. It's much easier to set up a sole trader as opposed to a limited company. There's not a lot of stuff you have to organise apart from just letting HMRC know. The next thing is lower accounting costs. So when you're a limited company, you have got a monthly fee that you need to spend on an accountant. Not necessarily straight away, but I'll go into that in a little bit later. There is a lower accounting cost if you're a sole trader, and a lot of the times people just do the books by themselves. So accounting fees are definitely lower, but not hugely lower, but they are lower. There is no public information. So when you're a limited company, your information is public. So I would advise you to get a virtual address if you don't want your address to be your home address to be live on your limited company. Therefore, people can look you up on Google. Now, you can change that, but also, even if you do change the address, just to let you know, your company info will be live, how long your company's been going, etc. It will be live on the government's website. Therefore, just got to be aware of that. So if you're a pro of being a sole trader, if you're worried about it, is that none of your information is on there. Also means that if you're not limited, then people that try and stalk you, if they type your name into Amazon, they're not going to find a limited company. Therefore, they're not probably going to be able to find your store as easy. They're not going to be able to find your personal details of who owns that store, because it's really hard to find people unless they've got a limited company. Another pro of a sole trader is that I don't know the ins and outs of this, as I say, I'm not an accountant, but I've heard that a lot of people, what they do is they get to the 86,000 threshold, which is the VAT threshold, and then they start a limited company then, and then it's meant to reset. In some circumstances, I've heard that it can reset the threshold for going VAT registered. Therefore, you don't have to go VAT registered until you've done 2 lots of 86,000, because once you hit it as a sole trader, you can start a limited company, then it refreshes to the 86,000. Now, double check that with an accountant, because I hear, some people do this, some people say you can't do this. Check with it. As far as I'm aware, you can do this. Okay, so let's go through a limited company now. So let's look at some of the cons of a limited company. Now, there's more admin. There's definitely more admin with a limited company. There's more things that you've got to file. There's more things that you've got to keep hold of to make sure you've got it all there for your accountant. So it's just something to be aware of. I've personally got an administration virtual assistant that does this for me, aka my business manager, does a lot more than that as well. Another con is that you need to hire an accountant a few months in, ideally from the start. I've actually got a link for Awesome below, which is 2 months free accounting. If you want to do that, go ahead and do that. If you've already got an accountant, you can get 120 quid off or something their services. They do mini packages as well for newbies, so I would advise you to do that with a free accounting in my link below. But the good thing about that is that, especially if you've got that link for the free accounting, you don't have to pay it from the start. You do need to hire an accountant though, at least a few months in, but know that if you don't have one from the start, then they are going to have to backtrack all your books to get you up to date to submit your tax return, to pay your liability. Therefore, there's definitely more. Okay, there's definitely more admin, but it's necessary. If you want to have a real business, it's necessary to do it. Also, your information is going to be public, so you've got to be aware of that. Your information will be public to anyone that searches your company on the net, especially, once again, as I said, your address. So I would say buy a virtual address, so you can get for £30 or £40. I use the London office, and that means that your personal address isn't going to be on there. Now let's look at some pros of a limited company. You can sell the business. Okay, so you can sell the business. Now, as I said in the last section there on the cons of a sole trader, you can't sell it. Okay, you can sell a business if it's a limited company, which is great. Okay, it is also a lot more credible. It's definitely a lot more credible. If you try to approach wholesalers or brands, etc., whatever you want to work with, any sort of supplier, and you're a sole trader, a lot of the time they're going to laugh you away. They're not going to deal with you unless you've got a lot of money, you're going to chuck at them straight away. They're going to struggle to deal with you. Usually they want you to be VAT registered, if you want to open proper wholesale accounts. But you need to at least be limited to take this seriously. If you're looking to do wholesale, if you're looking to get brands and stuff like that, you need to be limited, really. So it's definitely a lot more credible. If you want to add friends or family to the business partners, it's a lot easier to add them as a limited company. You can't really do it as a sole trader. To add it, by law, legally, so that you've both got the rights over the business, so that you don't get screwed over. It's just proper. To add friends and family, you need to be a limited company, really. Then you've both got shares, you're both directors, etc. As I mentioned before, the issue that I saw with one of my friends and 2 sellers where they tried to switch and Amazon wouldn't let them switch easily for a sole trader to a limited company. It took about 10 months. You're not going to have that issue if you start from a limited company straight away. You've also got limited liability. Now, this is one of the most important things. This is what living in the UK, a lot of people complain about a lot of issues with tax and stuff in the UK, and I get that. But one of the biggest benefits is the fact that it is limited liability. You can start a limited company, which not all countries have this, by the way. I think people don't realise that. And you've got limited liability. That means that you can literally pay yourself, make sure you pay yourself all the time, and I always say that. Make sure you pay yourself each month. Make sure you're always paying yourself a salary once you're making profit in the business, obviously. And then all the money that's in the business, even if you have a massive issue and someone tries to sue you for loads of money and the business just goes down, look, you're not liable for that. That means that you can just let that go. You can walk away. You can start another company at another day. Okay, once you've sorted out all the bankruptcy stuff, you can figure it out, and then it means that you don't have to pay. You don't have to take liability for that. Whereas if you're a sole trader, you do. If you haven't managed to pay a bill because God forbid your company went down, you're not liable for that. So it sort of doesn't affect you as much. So there's a lot less risk in the UK if you start a limited company. That's the main reason I have a limited company. Also, you pay a lot less tax. Okay, so if you set up your accounting properly, you use proper accountants. Like I use Awesome, as I say, they're in the link below. Make sure you get that 2 months free. If you're not going to use it now, make sure you save that link, because it's 2 months free accounting. Even if you don't use them after that, you've got the 2 months free accounting, guys. So make sure you use that. And look, at the end of the day, it's just proper, right? Having a limited company is proper. If you want to take this seriously, if you want to take this business seriously, you need to have a limited company. Like, you need to think a little bit bigger if you're worried about starting a limited company. But let's summarize this. Let's summarize who this is right for, why this is right for you. Is a limited company the best thing to start, or is a sole trader? Look, this is how I did it. Now, I started a limited company from the start because of all the pros that come with it, right? And, 2 months free accounting straight away. So I got, a little bit of a head start there. But if you're not sure, what a good thing could be to do would be to definitely talk to an accountant to start with. By the way, book a free call with Orson. They do it for free, just to have a little chat with them, and see what they think with your personal circumstances, because everyone's different. I would recommend that you start with, if you're not sure, the best thing to do probably, right now, as I say, I started with a limited company because of the reasons I listed. But if you're unsure, why don't you just start? If you're not sure how serious you're going to take this Amazon game, why don't you start with a sole trader, hit 20 grand, 30 grand, something like that, or a bit more, and then switch to a limited company. But bear in mind that at the end of the year, you have got to track your books. You've got to keep track of this stuff because you're going to have to submit your tax return at the end of the year. So if you need to get an accountant, get one soon. If you're really unorganised with this stuff, get one from the start. If you're fairly organised, get one in the middle, but be aware you've got to backtrack. And if you're super organised, you probably don't have to get an accountant until you're 2 or 3 months before your tax return, and then you're going to have to backtrack, okay? Now, some people do it themselves and they don't need an accountant. That's fine, but make sure you're doing it yourself because Amazon's a different beast. Don't let these people tell you, oh, just use a local accountant, it's fine. A lot of local accountants are not fine, and I can assure you of that because I almost lost a lot of money and got in big, big trouble. I used an accountant once that didn't think that the turnover on Amazon was what you had to submit to HMRC. He thought it was just a profit. So I almost didn't go that registered because I got misinformed by someone that had no clue what he was talking about. Be careful. Get a proper accountant as soon as you think you need it. Check out Awesome below. Get the free accounting to help you with a head start there. Do the best that you can. Do a sole trader to start with if you're unsure. Hit a few thousand. Once you know you're taking it seriously, I would recommend getting a limited company. Do it properly. Right, you're not going to get proper results if you don't take this seriously. I hope that video's helped. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.